Kazakhstan's vast mineral reserves make it a prime destination for mining investment. AI is revolutionizing geological exploration by enhancing efficiency, accuracy, and speed in mineral discovery. AI analyzes complex geological data, identifies patterns, and optimizes exploration strategies. Unlike traditional methods, AI can rapidly process vast datasets, uncovering hidden mineral-rich zones, reducing costs, and accelerating decision-making. Key innovations include AI-driven core scanning, as demonstrated by Xanadu Mines and DigiTech, and AI-powered zoning by Open Geology for porphyry-type intrusions. Additionally, airborne geophysical surveys using AI, led by Excalibur Smart Mapping, are unlocking large-scale investment opportunities. By embracing AI, Kazakhstan is attracting global investors and maximizing its mineral wealth. These advancements pave the way for smarter, more sustainable exploration, ensuring long-term prosperity for its mining sector.
Colleagues, as the promotion is over, now let us turn to the session. The session will be about the AI and the methods of overcoming geophysical problems and technological solutions. The first speaker is Samuel Carr from DigiTech. Please, the floor is yours. Microphone, please.
We're on. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm coming to you today from a company called DigiTech. We're a British core scanning company. This is better? Better? Okay. Right, are we on? We're on. Okay, good start. Good start, everyone. Okay, right, good morning. I'm calling to you today from a company called DigiTech. We're a British company within the core scanning industry. So what we do is we do a plethora of geochemical and geophysical sensing. And today I'm mainly going to be talking to you about the core scanning industry and how it's developed from our generalized core logging techniques. But when we put in the core scanning, we can start to create a better geological understanding and input ML and AI models to create this ideal workflow. Oh, we're all over. This one's better. Okay, very loud. Fantastic. So we'll get going. We'll hopefully try and create a bit of a story between where we started with the general core logging, which is throughout all points of the mining life cycle, the pitfalls that have generally arisen from there and how we can mitigate these, and then a real-life example of how Xanadu Mines have been through their pre-feasibility, through de-risking and creating a better return on investment from getting real quality data early on. So, core logging and core scanning. So through the mine life cycle and the mine evaluation cycle, it's pretty clear that it's through everything. So, I mean, you're right there in exploration, you're in development, you're in production, no matter what, you're still taking core out of the ground, and it will still only be the only ground truthing that we will ever see. So it's the only real example. Geophysics is superb, but this will be the only core that we actually see out of the ground. Now, if we take a little bit of a step back and look at the Lassonde curve of value of the companies and investments through time as we go through exploration, development, and straight into production and towards the end of the mine cycle. Initially, we're at a point where in exploration, where we're looking at a resource, we're trying to get the best resource characteristics as possible for as low money as possible. We move into feasibility, the risk increases, and we're starting to even relog our core to the point where we're getting multiple people, different geologists, relogging our core, all to feed into that block model at the end. It's extremely time consuming, and ideally if we can avoid this, that would of course be absolutely ideal. So you can see here in black the standard curve, but what we're really trying to do is reduce this risk of going into the abyss and create less risk, de-risk, and optimize the core for the core scanning companies. So, Core logging. Crucial. A lot of us in here will have probably done it. It's a junior geologist, senior geologists. There's going to be massively subjective. There'll be sampling bias when we go into assay. It's not very consistent. You are the best geologist in the world, but the issue is if you can't see something, you can't see something, and they won't be doing the entire thing anyway. What we'd like to do is start putting geology against core scanning. So if we can automate the way with a complete geochemical suite of elemental, mineralogical, and structural data through an automated core scanning system, and have the geologist get back to the geology and really interpret data that will always be consistent. Even if there's a mistake, which there rarely is, it will still be a consistent mistake across all data sets. Now, AI and ML, massively obviously important in this session. It's already come up in other sessions. GeoTech deploy multiple models. I'm not going to go into all of them. If you'd like to know more later, please let me know. It can be segmenting, it can be clustering, it can be structural classifications, it can be even prediction models if your sample is large enough. What we're going to focus on today is just the Xanadu data set, because there's too much really to go through. Xanadu was a porphyry copper deposit with essence of gold, so it's crucial for them that they were able to sulfide habit map. Also, because of the nature of the complex geometry, they needed complex fracture orientation, alphas, betas, everything. It was really important for this, so we needed a way to deploy this and characterize the entire setup. Now, the case study from a high level. Go back one. The case study from a high level was one that we would use 2 box scans. We would look at 150 kilometers of core at a really high resolution imagery. So the main points here was Xanadu needed to be able to sulfate habit map, which is identifying your disseminated, your veined, and your massive, just through the imagery, and your structural 3D laser. This was the main objective of the approach. We went through an initial few steps, band thresholding, k-means clustering. This is the one that we eventually decided on. So k-means clustering with an additional CNN model. So that is a deep learning supervised technique that we used, so heavily bespoke, to be able to identify these sulfides. Now, this is just a visualization of the core. Initially, you can straight away just see that it's identified the sulfides. Can't really determine the habits. But then when we start to put in the model, we can identify how the veined, you can start to pull across the veined sulfides against the disseminated sulfides in the yellow and the veined in the red. This is not just characterization, you can also do semi-quantification with this. Now, when you deploy this across entire core sets, you can really start to map out how this habit is domaining. QA/QC. So all of this would just be nothing without actually being able to prove to some extent that this is working, definitely. We had our endpoints from the client and our lithology mapping from the top bar. So this is the lithology bar. Directly below that, we had the real sulfur assay that they actually took away. Below this, the predicted sulfide map is the one that we created from our modeling. As you can see, it actually really nicely matches to the real assay results. Of course, there are limitations. We were doing it on a very superficial view, so just the face of the core. And an assay will always be needed because it is volumetric. But if you can imagine deploying this technique in real time across drill programs, that would be really, really valuable. Below this, as we start to map into GeoMet, you can see the important features here, which would be your grain sizes. Utilizing the 3D laser and a texture, you can start to identify between your veined and your massive, and additional to that, your grain sizes as well. This will have major implications into your GeoMet models down the line and how you decide to process. And if you can get to these stages early, you can create far more sophisticated mine plans. So just to talk a little bit about the 3D laser. Really, there's only 2 sensors out of 6 potential sensors being used in this particular case study. So this was 3D lasers, the main part, being able to give you textural data of your minerals. Additional to this, your alphas and your betas, gives you your fracture orientation. And again, in complex areas like this, where the geometry is extremely more complex, this is really important to see how your veins are being mapped. So the Xanadu mines, this is talking about that was talking about the ML and the AI and how we were inputting it. And now if we go into the actual, I guess, the end points of what we were looking at. So the sulfide domaining, Xanadu were using two different techniques. They were using our ML and AI models to then feed into the separate standard assay and geochemical sensors. So they did them separately, and then they brought them together to create that much more competent model at the end. This was their initial, so we're not involved here, this was their initial resource modeling on your left and geomet model on your right, showing us standard porphyry copper. And this was their data, I guess, quantity from using the assay data. They were going to try and pull their mineralogy and have them across the, obviously try to model. Now to increase this, we did the box scan across the entire data set to be able to map the pyrite and the calcite. So you can already see the increase of data points here. Again, this was not done in tandem for this particular project, but now the model's been created. This could be happening as soon as you're bringing it out for the next drill program. You can see a real clear mapping of pyrite and calcite, which is incredibly important for your planning of your flotation models, your processing models, and generally your geomet and your geoplanning. Now, this was the mapping of the disseminated versus the veined versus the massive across the entire deposit. So again, this is giving you your textural data, this is giving you your grain size data, and generally how these veins are being created throughout the model. Usually, these are being created by very time-consuming lab results. Of course, that will always be important, but if you can create these models initially and then deploy them next drilling campaigns, you can really have them in tandem. This is, again, a bit of a high level. So we're moving from, I think big data is a really interesting thing. I think everybody agrees that we need it. I think a lot of people are starting to get a little bit scared of it because they have these massive databases of geochemical and geophysical data, and really the questions aren't being answered. They just have this data and they're not doing anything with it. It really is important of what is the question that we are asking and what is the value that we're trying to get. And in these cases, it was aspects like the lithological model, the structural model. They needed to know about the acid flow. Now, this was another end product. So this was a net acid forming model. So deriving from the previous images that you've seen, using the fine-grained pyrites and the calcites, you can start to indicate which is going to be the more net acid forming model points in your design. It's a really crucial aspect. You can start to plan where your dumps should be, the aspect of the processing techniques, the types of milling, the types of grinding, the types of flotation. Similarly, with your geomet, all of this data is being fed into here with the real assay and then also the ML and the AI capabilities to create this really competent model of where your high grades are, your low grades. And this is all in pre-feasibility, so you're already really getting the value of this up. And I think you have to think that over the lifespan of a mine, let's just say 20 years for the sake of it, a 1% increase could be hugely valuable. So it's really worth doing this early on and getting the high quality of data first. So the takeaway messages, in general, there are multiple techniques in this industry to be able to give you a high data quality first. Core is the only ground truthing that we have. It should not just be left to standard logging. There's so much more that we can get out of it. The geologist needs to be working to interpretate with core scanning data. It really is absolutely invaluable, because what we need to try and do is stop this abyss in the middle and try and alleviate it to some extent by having the quality data initially, and then being able to accelerate your return on investment by creating an optimized core scanning and core logging technique. So this is very much the key points. I think it's the big question is, can you afford not to do it, really? I think the mining industry is a very interesting one. I think its core logging will always be incredibly important, and I think core scanning has created this huge buzz, and I think everyone's a bit wise to it now, that it needs to be. I think everyone agrees that it's the direction of travel, but getting the biggest giveaway I can give is, what is the question that you're asking for your deposit or your resource, and what is the actual value that the data can bring to you? Not just, I want all of this data, it's what is the actual question. In this question, it was sulfide habit mapping and how important that would be to the resource. Okay? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Себя я сам представлю, поскольку я...
Thank you very much. I'll introduce myself as I'm moderating and presenting. I'm Kapitov Dmitry, IGT Group, and today we will be talking about the topic of application of the algorithms of artificial intelligence on the prospect state.
Сделать...
And we would like so to consider it. Let me start with the following. Let me cite the most known person, well-known person that made the first steps in the 20th century, Alan Turing. In order to get the reliable data, we need to research the big section of the spatial and time continuum. And for the last 6 years, looking at our dynamics, starting 2019, pre-pandemic year, so the spiral is so dense now, and now we are expediting all the time, and the technologies are being converged, and the solutions are being converged, new data are emerging, and we are now living in this paradigm. So what was the background of that? First of all, the technical solutions have been have become more democratic. Geology, mining industry, starting from the Neolithic, is critically changing the landscape of the Earth in general, and so the geology is changing the civilization in general, and all these modern technological solutions, they are trying to compensate the increase in our demands, because as a human, we are always consuming some resources. That's why we have to think of new tools to deal with it. Convergence in the geological exploration. This convergence of technologies and AI now, and geology, geological science, this convergence between three bubbles provides us with unique opportunities and unique results, and we are quite inspired by all this. But is it really so? Because the price of the investment mistake is very critical, especially if we're talking about exploration period. And let us compare operation, exploration, and where these technologies have been applied. We are all aware about the opportunities of application of AI in the exploration period, because sometimes the person cannot compete with AI. So AI is good at analyzing the vector geomaps and data, modeling of geological process. We are all visualists, and we are better at visualizing that auditing. So that's why modeling and visualizing of all the processes, this is the strongest tool. Data processing, so remote data processing, it's not a new thing because even 50, 60 years ago, these methods were there when we have the first satellites. But when we have AI application now, and when we are processing this data, we have better projections. Then AI can assist us in other processes of exploration, predictive models, and also we have to think about the analysis of the mineralogical data. In the previous session, there was a good presentation from ILS, and I was very happy to hear it. Talking about Internet of Things, iOS. This is a separate application of iOS in exploration and extraction. We all know how the data have been accumulated, sensors, telemetric collection, so mobile equipment. During the operation, we have certain equipment that are used, like drones and other things. But talking about exploration, if we are talking about exploration, we want to reduce time to analyze data. Yes, for sure. AI helps us to reduce this time. With AI in exploration, we are improving the precision of our predictions, automation of the processes of the search, assessment, and exploration. Navigation. If all the countries, we have about 130 of satellites all over the world, and if we are combining that, it will help us a lot. And if European and Chinese, American satellites are working together, it would be better. Then with AI, we are minimizing the human factor because this is the most things that we have to pay attention in the exploration. If talking about AI structure, we have the basic level. Here we are talking about data that we are receiving. We have the moderate level or middle level of the AI. Here we are talking about ML. And we have a higher level of AI. These are technical solutions and applications. And it's clear that AI can a lot process the data, so reproduce the data, compare, select, so predictions, functions, increasing the discretion of the researchers. But AI cannot pick up data for learning. These pseudo etalons that are used to learn the machines, it means that whatever you're feeding in, so you are getting at the end. So that's why AI cannot go beyond the task because AI cannot be creative and AI cannot resolve intuitive tasks. So the goal of the machine learning, so these three components of the success: data, features, and algorithms. But there are some drawbacks. There are some weak points. On the slide, you can see the person in 2-3 minutes can read this capture, and when we try to log to some resources, we are all facing these captures. But we want to use the quality models. Let me help you here. To verify, we need specific data, clear data, and the problem is here. And the countries that have established serious information masses, Australian colleagues, for example, Australian colleagues, these are kind of benchmarking for us. I like how they are working a lot, but different range of parameters that registered during the learning. And we are looking all over the world, and there are no ready solutions because we have several complex procedures of automatic vectorization of the archives. Human factor. For example, if the mentor who is teaching the machine makes a mistake, then the machine continues doing these mistakes. AI hallucination. When there is not enough data, AI starts to fantasize, thinking over some extrapolations that are not existing anymore. When I'm delivering lectures for the students, I tell them, don't believe whatever is ChatGPT is proposing to you, because everything should be verified and checked by a person. So lack of intuition and creativity. I mentioned about this weak point of AI and its potential errors of AI at the early stages. There can be high costs to learn the stuff, to introduce, to present complex solutions, because we don't have simple solutions so far, plug and play. And if we are talking about the discovery, the search for the new deposits, it's a kind of a hunting process. It's the whole system of the process. We are talking about the stages. We are talking about the search stage, assessment, exploration, and we have such a statistics. Out of 100 of such ideas can be of interest, 50 of them can be of interest, but at the end we have only 2 or 3% that will be explored later on in more details. Australian colleagues are telling us, it's a kind of an apple tree. We can pick up all the apples that are hanging low, but we have a lot of apples hanging above, and the same with the hunting. So we have utilized all the tools available of us in exploration, like big elephants have been shot, and now in this hunting of the search for the new deposits, we need to use new tools. And this is the whole pool of companies here you can see on the list that try to use the predictive functions of AI. Australian companies, they are more advanced here. In Canada, the companies are trying to use AI. In Russia, we have been working on this topic for 5 years, and we still have fragmented solutions. So far, USA, India, Poland, Finland, and in Finland there was a very interesting process. They collected money, but then the company got corrected, stopped operating. Also we have to think about the fraud. We don't know what is being done in China, what China's colleagues are doing with AI. Chinese colleagues are wiser to tell anyone else about their activities. So application of AI at the search stage. Everything depends on the initial data, input data, because when the data are being collected, we can face human factors. Accumulation of all these errors at all the initial stages can result into some big mistakes. There was a game we played when we were children, fault telephone, when you say something at the beginning and at the end you get something different. What can we say? Whether AI is already an adult adult, the so-called adult, has grown up to an adult stage, maturity stage, to be applied at the research stages. Not so far. It's an adolescent stage, let's say. But what needs to be done, even yesterday, actually, first of all, we need to further develop software solutions. So we need to develop new technologies for the remote exploration. We need to develop further navigation systems. We need also to develop standards, and also the development of the computer sites. Also, we need to develop multimodal programs to collect and process the data, and also we need to improve the culture of collection and analyzing the initial data. And also we need to establish the digital supervisors at every facility, let's say, at every project. To sum up, AI is already playing a key role in the transformation of the mining industry, and we understand that the exploration and operation stages, application has been proven. It's a kind of a standard already, industrial standard. But when we're talking about machine learning for the AI is still highly dependent on the initial data. And we have faced certain issues already, and AI is not capable yet to cope with new challenges requiring intuition and creativity. In our opinion, at the search stages and assessment stages, AI cannot replace traditional geological expertise and knowledge, and human knowledge and expertise. And of course, the lack of understanding of the ultimate goal can result into the big investment costs, because yes, there are a lot of solutions existing already, and if you have not studied the market proposals, sometimes you can face the fraud. Thank you.
Да,
Colleagues, Ivan Alexeyev, Director General of Group of Companies of Geologists.
Give me a chance to make a talk every year here. It's a really great pleasure. Thank you for organizers, and you all to come and listen for a while. If you don't mind, I will switch to Russian. Для большинства, наверное, это будет.
The majority, it will be more convenient. I would support the theses and conclusions of the previous speaker without stepping on each of them, and I would absolutely agree. And I'll talk about this is a plan of my presentation today. I'll tell you about the company, and I'll give the outcomes of our scientific research as an illustration. In the upper part, we are a little bit in a different format. We are not in physics and geochemistry. Several words. The company of Open Geology, we have been working during 4 years in Kazakhstan and for 15 years in Russia. You're welcome to our booth. We like very much Kazakhstani climate here. We have our distinguished colleagues. I never believe them to be our competitors. We cooperate a lot for the benefits of the development of our entire sector. A little bit of routine that we are doing annually and daily. This is a prospect operations at early stages, and it seems very known, clear. Let us go move geology, physics, and geochemistry. But what we are doing with our colleagues here and in Russia becomes the basis for many investment decisions. And to achieve the ethics, 150% of licensed area move to the next stage, and two of them are successfully going through geological feasibility assessment. It is possible when we have a big pool of decisions and big pool of objects, and without advanced prospecting methods, it is impossible to identify the right areas, and that is why we return to regional works, to regional skills, return to geology, to petrography, to study of metasomatism or metasomatosis or macroscopy. So those tools allowing us to make important decisions at the early stage from what we have to reject. So this we are doing it, and actually in all our objects we have stable software application. It's a general trend. We love to see everything in real time, and our clients like to control everything through their service. And for ourselves, we have selected the key instrument, our GIS field map software for us, and QGIS and Q fields safe analysis, because they have maximum flexibility and adaptation to our tasks and projects. It's not a promotion. I'm sharing my experience. We tried everything, and we tried even to develop our own software, but now we are using these products which are satisfactory for our task. And as for the topic that we would like, which is overheated already, I love it. I love this word. We're at the same stage. Maybe we are not vastly experimented as our colleagues with various elements of neural networks, but for ourselves we have selected a working scheme that includes clustering based on Kohanen network, and we implemented it into a primary database processing of first test. We used Excel file as the entry containing chemical elements. We have a system of automatic check, filling of cells, duplicated coordinates, and so on. And after that, we add the elements of clusterization, and then at the exit, we have a checked Excel sheet with additional columns that show us the weight of a winning neuron, and we can map it immediately. On the slide, you see the comparison of the domains as the neural network shown with a fragment of geological map with the points of mineralization and potential fields. It is absolutely obvious that we cannot use this data for drilling, ditching, but as an element of primary data processing, it is useful. And I am glad to say that we spend more time for preparation of the algorithm of the neural network than for manual processing. But when the algorithm has been established, for adapted a little bit for every section, because geological conditions are different, and then we start the process of errors, search for errors, and visualization of advanced survey analysis. This process is very convenient for us and allow us to compare with the raw data of magnetic survey made on the lines. Application of RFA and fast capacities of data processing. We are using looking on how geophysics treat raw data in field to find on errors, identify the sexual detalization, make a control route. For us, this algorithm appeared useful, and then I could not find the picture with a geologist who is in an overheated condition. Technical tasks come from a mobile application, no paper use. Here we should be a little bit slow. We are working with the nature, with living objects. We have to create and do creation at the stage of prospecting. I suppose the services, but we have to simplify the work of the huge massive of respective data with the planning of routes of the field operations. This is what these systems can do, and we are using them, and they should be developed as an example. One of the classical pictures, which is very secreted as it should be. This is the example of manual
Значит,
all the stages, cluster analysis, factors analysis, and so on. And geological geochemists interpret, visualize, construct the maps, poly multi-applicative, and we use these maps for our further decision making. And as for these nice things, I would like to demonstrate you a picture as an example when we get something very nice. And I would like to share this picture. This is a classical analogy on unstripped porphyry extrusion, but you may guess that in these systems, the minerals can occupy central part, and then we could have the series of areas of polymetallic elements. And we are doing these things, we are trying to catch up these analogies, and we are waiting for the outcomes of drilling when these objects are confirmed. And it's a conclusion. Maybe I have to note, and I always thankful to my team, they are very strong, very committed professionals who started from ordinary geologists and reached to the positions of geochemists, responsible and executives who are involved in these processes. And with the efforts of this team, we managed to reach good and nice outcomes. Thank you very much again for the opportunity speak to you. Thank you, Ivan. And the next presenter will be also Ivan Kozyrev, our GeoTech company, Geophysics. Good morning. Thank you very much for the organization of this forum. We are often guests here and used to speak from another company. And our company has been recently established, and our roots come from AGT Systems Vostok. And today I will, due to political tectonical changes in global political life, we have to expand the geography of search for geophysical equipment supplies. We are supplying all geophysical equipment from all the world to Kazakhstan, to other CIS countries. And that is why we established certain understanding about the world of geophysical instrumentation and engineering. And I would like to make a brief overview. I am not saying that that my presentation will be exhaustive, but I'll present what I have seen. We will start with the gravimetrical measurements. It is known that the most popular gravimetry is Syntrix. It is a version of CG6. It is clear that this gravimetric equipment has not been supplied to Russia since 2022, but I have to say that supplies to Kazakhstan are strongly controlled. They are controlled both by the manufacturer, who demands serious statements and proves that this equipment will not be exported anywhere, and also by Canadian customs that can delay gravimeter for checks for several months. I'm not talking about producers from Czech Republic and from equipment on metal springs in the US, but there is no alternative CG6. Russia specialist is developing another gravimeter. Now it is available only in preliminary orders. The only thing that we know, they have a working sensor already, while the interface has not been completed. Yes, we have studied gravimetric equipment in China, and Chinese colleagues say that they have their gravimeters, but they will not show them to us, and they will not sell them because it is a kind of state secret or paramilitary secrets. And if you are from Russia, you'll not have parameters. If you are from Kazakhstan, you have a chance to buy CG6, but only direct, because Syntrix does not operate through the agents. Magnetometric surveying. The market of magnetometers is significant. It is represented by many countries. On the list, you see the key manufacturers, Canadian CHEM, and I would like to say that Canadian CHEM also rejected to work with the agent due to the fears to get under the secondary sanctions. And Marine Magnetics faces a similar situation, as they do not supply the equipment to the agents, and they supply only directly to explorating companies, and at the same time they check the profiles of the company and take their statements that they will not export this equipment anymore without their permit. USA is trading all over the globe, but as the magnetometers is a dual-use good, there is a limitation on accuracy, but in general these tools are supplied, and the most used one is drone. And also we have European sensors that are widely spread in the world of multimeter as well as sensors. In China, we found the producers of ferrozone sensors with Macau, and say the outcomes are very good, and several sensors are already operating in Russia. They have not been supplied to Kazakhstan. They pass through a certification, even space certifications. They have sensors for satellites, including the sensors which sites is applied for CubeSats, produced in St. Petersburg. And also Chinese colleagues have very good proton-based monitor from Geomative company, which is working that can works with modern interfaces. In Russian geophysical instrumentation engineering, it's obviously there were due to all these restrictions, several companies started creating the cesium-based sensors and released magnetometers for drones, like GSCAN, device, and RMMS to the market. All of them have been here, and some representatives are still here with us. And RMMS has all ultrasounding data. I'm not talking about human-born magnetometers. They're also presented by device. As for spectrometrics, here the situation is much more difficult.
There are not so many manufacturers, so we have Medusa, the European manufacturer. Mainly, they concentrated on the drone solutions and compact spectrometers, food spectrometers. It is well recognized, accepted. The main advantage of that is that they have their own software with good algorithm to get the good spectrum for further interpretation. Gradient solutions. This is the leader in this type of manufacturing in spectrometry. They have hand, foot, and big crystals for air spectrometry. We are not talking about drones. We are talking about controlled aviation, and that is being applied all over the world. And now I can tell that they don't have enough time to manufacture enough spectrometers. There is a whole queue for the spectrometry, starting with the pandemic time. In China, we found the plant that is manufacturing crystals themselves. If you're talking about the instrument itself, we have the spectrometer that is similar to radiation solutions, and we didn't find anything else, any other modification. In Russia, there is an attempt to start producing, manufacturing spectrometers, GM servers. They produced GM Gamma 1000, and I haven't used it, cannot tell about that. Talking about electro survey, there is no problem about this type of instruments all over the world. EGCOS GDD from Canada, you know these manufacturers, well known all over the world. In China, Geomative and Chongqing Gold, these are the manufacturers that have a wide net line of products. They are selling in China, but also they started to enter the international market. And China is developing drastically now, and it is linked to their model because the instrument manufacturing started in the Soviet Union times, and everything was funded by the government in China as well. And they have good achievements and developments, but for the last 7 years, the manufacturers of the geo instruments were provided the opportunity to enter the international markets, and they started to adapt their instruments for the needs of their customers and clients. And the Russian producers, manufacturers, you all know them, Scala, Geotech, seismic instruments. I will not talk about seismic because there are a lot of instruments all over the world. I will talk about Chinese seismic instruments because we like it very much. There are a lot of producers, manufacturers of seismic equipment or instruments in China, and all this equipment, all these instruments are good ones. And Huawei producer is a good one, and so they started to transmit data using 4G and 5G networks. Previously, these instruments, they were engineering instruments. They used it when they were building roads and bridges, and Sinopec company, there was an accident at the drilling rig, and these guys with this equipment, seismic equipment, were able to define the failure, where the failure is exactly, to stop the leakage. And we were impressed actually about all these opportunities using this equipment and instruments data in online mode. So logging equipment in Russia, you know, Vulcan and Technogeo. In China, for example, they have logging equipment. They are manufacturing logging equipment in China as well. For example, Chongqing Gold in Russia, they are applying this equipment. They are quite satisfied with this equipment, frankly speaking, but still the users of this Chinese equipment are telling that Western equipment is still more reliable. Talking about our company, IoT company, the new representative of IoT company in Kazakhstan is DigiTech, and we are still supplying logging equipment to Kazakhstan, providing training for this equipment. And of course, IoT has a lot of competitors, Robertson Geo, that is here, Leon GeoVision. That's why there are a lot of logging equipment manufacturers, but IoT company has certain advantages. Why? First of all, we are talking about software. Well, CAD, I will not be talking about acoustic televiewers even, and Wellcard is an independent product, software product that can be used by any companies using login equipment, because this software can process any login data, and they are also thinking about applying AR application to process login data. Now talking about processing of geophysical data, gravimetry, magnetometry data, so electric survey data, and for many times they were using just one software. And in China, so previously they were using Oasis Montage equipment software, but we found also the software in China, and in general we are talking about a good team of developers and physicists, and they are working on 3D geological modeling, and so they are modeling the ore bodies actually based on geological maps, and also compared the Chinese developers with Oasis company. Actually, they have developed software to process the technical data. So you can come up to my stand and I will talk about it in details. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Ivan, very much. And the next speaker is Victor Gonzalez from Excalibur Smart Mapping Company.
First of all, I want to thank the organization for the invitation to this session. And I'm going to change a bit the concept and the scale of the session, because I'm going to focus not that much in technical aspects, but in economic and strategic aspects. Let me first start. Okay, perfect. Let me first start with a few words about Excalibur. For those who are not familiar with my company, we are the biggest airborne geophysics company in the world. We have the headquarters in Spain, in Madrid, and we have the main offices in South Africa, in Australia, and in Canada. We have an office in Kazakhstan. We have been working in the country since 2022, and we are working for mining companies here, and we expect to keep working here for a long time. We have our own fleet of aircraft. We have more than 40 aircraft flying around the world, and as you see in the slide, we are a global company. All these countries that you have highlighted, there are countries where we have proposals with governments. I mean, we have ongoing projects, all projects or proposals with governments, because we work for private clients and we work for governments. But today I wanted to highlight the importance of the geodata for investment decisions in a regional basis. Well, as you are familiar with geophysics here, most of you, because of the content of the session, but we cover the whole process. I mean, we acquire the data with our aircraft, or we can use helicopters if the topography is not so nice, and we take that data and we process the data and interpret the data. In that processing and interpretation, we use the machine learning techniques and the artificial intelligence techniques to improve the results and to accelerate that process, as we were seeing in other presentations before. And if necessary, we have also some data management solutions. Some countries, some companies don't need them. Some other companies we need it for visualization or even for other aspects of data management. But going back to countries and regional mapping, I brought here two examples of one developed country, one developing country, which are really investing in this process, because for investment attraction or any strategic decision making, probably the first element is the regulatory framework, okay? But the second element is going to be data. So any investor going to a country, or if they want to make some kind of investment decision, they will require the data because it's the de-risking element for any investment. So you have the example of Australia. In Australia, every year, even if Australia is probably the biggest mining jurisdiction, every year they invest in new data, in developing new information, sometimes for mining, sometimes for water, sometimes for new energy sources, because geophysics, you know that you can cover all these areas. But if you move to developing countries, you see that in Angola, between 2015 and 2021, they have also made the effort to cover the whole country, not only with geophysics, also with geology and geochemistry, but they are getting this new data to be a more attractive country for investment. They were a very typical oil and gas country, but now they want to become also a popular mining destination. You have some information here about the results, because these projects are bankable. These projects have positive results for the country. If you look at Australia, they have a very nice report prepared by Deloitte about the impact, not only about the world-class deposits discovered, as you can see there, but also about how much money it returns to the country in terms of GDP, 3.5%, and in terms of pure exploration investment, or even the value of the extraction that we got from those industries. And if you look at the developing countries, in Angola, which was a very traditional oil and gas country, now, since, I don't know, in the last 20 years, they have started to get the attention of the big mining companies, and they are currently negotiating with Rio Tinto, with Anglo American, with Ivanhoe, with BHP, about the potential investment in the country, and they have more than 80 prospecting projects and more than 20 exploration projects. So this is good to attract private sector exploration, to contribute to GDP, to get information for which areas to develop, which areas not to develop, which areas to leave them alone, to de-risk investments and to drive new discoveries. And some countries have some old data. I mean, most of the countries have some kind of data at some point. But if you see here, and this is another case, this is from Saudi Arabia, if you compare the quality of the data that we had, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, well, some countries probably they have data from 50 years ago. With the data that you can get now, it's a huge difference, and that makes a big difference when you are trying to convince an international company, or where you are trying to decide how to allocate an investment in one place or the other. Moving to Kazakhstan, we are in this process to map this country and to convince the government to do this what we call country mapping action, and we have defined, well, the big ambition, as you can imagine, is to map the whole country, but this is a big country, so probably an approach with phases make totally sense. So we have defined a pilot area in Northern Balkans. We have some priority areas in the east of the country, as you see in the map, to develop this program. Our usual approach, we usually start with remote sensing mapping with satellite imaging, because it gives you a good idea about it's the first layer of information. It gives you a good idea about the geology of the area. Then we go with the most standard technologies, which are magnetics, radiometrics, and gravity. And then for the target areas, we use the enhanced technologies like electromagnetics or gradient gravity with exclusive technologies like we have with the Tempest and the Falcon technology, which is Excalibur exclusive, to go for specific deposits for more target exploration. As you see, there are a lot of potential in the country, so this is a big opportunity to promote the sector in Kazakhstan. Because again, as I was mentioning, our idea is always coming I left the regulatory framework here outside, but from the data to the natural resources with that potential, so we can convert that potential into real investments and wealth for the country, attracting new projects, creating new deposits with new investment flows in the country, and with the end to bring employment and revenues to the country and GDP growth. We have, as I said, we have an office here. We have a booth in the conference. We are happy to talk with you in the booth. Any question, any comment, we are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Следующий
The next presenter is Anna Nesmiyanova from Russian Institute of Mineral Raw Materials. Good morning, and in continuation of the topic of relevance of prospecting of the deposits at early stage of exploration, I would like to present one of geochemical methodologies that we have been developing at Moscow Institute. And in this presentation, I would like to focus on the works in steppe areas, which is important for Kazakhstan and for many other states. As you may know, now exists a lot of methodologies that allow to fix a useful geophysical signal from deeply occurring ore bodies or covered ore bodies through partial removal of easily moving forms of chemical elements. From this class of methods includes our method KCOS, that is mapping of salt areas. The forms of these elements are caused by physical chemical processes which intensify the border of core rocks and covering loose sediments. The movement of elements to surface horizons and the accumulation established as descattering area. During mapping, traditionally several forms of connecting elements water exchange, water soluble forms related to carbonates, organics, substances, carbon oxides of iron and manganese, and the last form is remaining from matrix within alumina silicates, metals and sulfates. In the method as extracting reagent, we are using sulfate acetic hexylamines that allow us to remove elements from all poorly connected forms without touching upon the remaining strongly connected matrix, which is a targeted practice during traditional chemical testing. Selection of samples is simple. We take samples weighing 2 or 3 grams from horizon beds, and it is dried without heating and set it and transmitted to the laboratory. The works can be done in profile and special options depending on geological situation and the prospecting area. Further, I would like to provide you 3 examples on the results of the work of our methodology applicably to steppe-based region. This is Sarpol section, where in 2023 we carried out geochemical prospecting. It is located within Ongajar folding system, and the region is known to the presence of colchidon, copper, zinc, and copper gold formation. The structure is presented via by serpentine, mostly they are porphyrites of average and main composition, and within the structure, the red contrast you may see from the slide. So within the prospecting areas, we have the southern part of our mineralization. It is a zinc-like ore. It is a classical colchidon formation. Here we could like to say that the depth of occurrence of certain ore bodies is 700 meters, and it is present breccias and sulfide and quartz carbonate veins. The ore occurrence is located in hidden overlaying deposit, and the area is almost everywhere covered with includes Cenozoic deposits up to 20 meters thick, and some of the ore bodies do not reach the pre-quaternary surface. Due to the Karakuduk mineralization is analysis of searched by Astron type, and then we have shown in the previous it get to the contour of the prostate area. We decided to use the nullity of primary areal of this or manifestation as an atom is especially important due to critically significant deeps of occurrence for classical geophysics, and the objective of interpretation of primary areals were to find the elements that are concentrated in the upper or sub-or erosion section. As you see at the picture, under the mantle of sedimentation, we see a zonal areal with small copper cores, and vertical zonality of the subject is also very clearly shown in the upper part of the section. Aurum and zinc are concentrated. So, coming to concluding the results of primary areals, I would like to see the concentration is clearly differentiated and compliance with typical geochemical zonality of copper, zinc, coltan objects of Ural. First, in my presentation, I show how the studying of previous areal of the atoll helped us at the in the interpretation data at the prospect area. The area where we carried out the geochemical testing is located within Gelan Depression, dominated by steppe landscape, poorly hilly, and in this area we have certain source and swampy lakes. The soils are brown, sometimes salty, but in general they are useful for geotechnical testing methodology. The landscape specifics of the region is contrast change of the nature of the soils in the sphere, in the area of source, and dried out lakes. We have concrete particular types of soils that is characterized with geochemical carbonaceous barriers. The effect of this barrier is reflected in the surface distribution of large number of elements. Everywhere we see high concentration of molybdenum, borax, and beryllium, so on, that is present in salt lakes, and in some areas bismuth and copper are occurring. So we can say that the concentration of elements have deep source, but the maximum of surface anomalies are controlled with the presence of geochemical barriers in the macro landscape. And ignoring this landscape specifics may result into erroneous conclusions at the further stages of surveying. The next stage of the work was to identify polycarp anomalies, considering all the zonalities and landscape specific of the object I have described above. It was established that the main contribution to anomalous chemical field is made by cuprum, zinc, plumbum, bismuth, and so on, as well as arsenic. And the most of the anomalies are concentrated in the northern part of the site in the area of the development of andesite of balancing perforates of all conserving stage. We identified the anomalies, natural culture down mineralizations at two levels of section. This is a medium level of section and the upper ore-bearing sections that we are striving to get. And also we constructed two anomalies field in the upper level for plumbum and argentum, and for deeper area we found five anomaly geophysical fields for containing bismuth, copper, and plumbum. For this we established uniform geophysical map with a region on this level of perspectiveness. And here we identify that within this section number 1, it is a northeast pledge of the prospect area over the all manifestation Krugudu that got to the destined boundaries. We identified complex geochemical anomalies that makes all our prospecting conclusion on the prospect area relevant. And the most interesting part here, next year, so in 2024, recommended anomalies were confirmed with the drilling. 2 wells were drilled at the depths from 65 to 630 meters, as penetrated the serious polymetric mineralization with halcopyrite and sphalerite ores that allow us to continue the Colchinan system to the southwest from a known ore manifestation. So outside of prospecting of Colchinan, also we identify the anomaly of arsenic, gold, and plumbum. You see it in yellow at the depths of 200 meters. We identify the 600 bridges zone with strong periodization and ore concentrations of argentum and auras. And another example of efficiency method from step landscape we received within in the region of Argon at Uram vein deposits. The deposit is localized within streets of locations in late Paleozoic age and covering Mesozoic volcanics. The ore manifestation is blind, as the upper part is at the level of forehead and the and it is represented branurite, caphenite, uranierite. The ores are mainly monocomponent with increased molybdenum concentration. At the deposit of the projections of our bodies in black, you see geochemical anomalies of uranium, zirconium, hafnium, beryllium, and rare earth elements. And especially clear the projects of our body is shown with high values of uranium-thorium relationship. And the specific of interpretation is that we have significant technological burden on the territory. This is region that is known for ore production, and we use special operation methods that would allow us to remove smooth technological burden. And the last example is a uranium deposit of stratiform type. It is localized in Mesozoic or Tuic gravel. The ore bodies are located in the thickness of early Cretaceous conglomerate covered with andesite basalts, thick as 70 to 150 meters in all 6 profile. Over the projection of ore bodies, we identify the contrast anomalies of uran and its supporting elements as plumbum, molybdenum, and lithium. Making a conclusion, I would like to note that in the presentation we have given a special attention to application of a methodology for looking for hidden mineralization in step lasking. We traced this metal in different regions for wide and also for wide spectrum of elements that include gold, silver, polymetals, and sometimes chemical-release bearing diamonds. So for geochemical prospecting of deposits on top of special surveying, we have to consider the whole specifics of the region, technological burden, landscape variety, as well as applying all possible methods of interpretation and compelling of the data. Thank you very much for kind attention. Anna, thank you very much. And our colleagues are writing. And when we are going to have a session on artificial intelligence, only managers and financial people are talking about AI. Not only the specialists know that as colleagues, we have several minutes for question and answers.
Вот фазовые методы анализа начали разрабатывать.
The phased analytical methods that started to be developed in 60s in Leningrad, and now we have a lot of assay methods. And there is no order, let's say, in these methods. For example, how your method is linked with all the previously developed methods. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Yes, our method is related to the whole group of methods. And the main difference of our method is that the soil fraction that is being isolated by the methods, because the past methods, it is based on the magnesium, for example. Our method is dissolving all weak formats except the rest matrix. All these methods are aimed at one theme. They are looking for geochemical anomalies. One more question? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Then we have exhausted all our topics, and thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Kazakhstan's vast mineral reserves make it a prime destination for mining investment. AI is revolutionizing geological exploration by enhancing efficiency, accuracy, and speed in mineral discovery. AI analyzes complex geological data, identifies patterns, and optimizes exploration strategies. Unlike traditional methods, AI can rapidly process vast datasets, uncovering hidden mineral-rich zones, reducing costs, and accelerating decision-making. Key innovations include AI-driven core scanning, as demonstrated by Xanadu Mines and DigiTech, and AI-powered zoning by Open Geology for porphyry-type intrusions. Additionally, airborne geophysical surveys using AI, led by Excalibur Smart Mapping, are unlocking large-scale investment opportunities. By embracing AI, Kazakhstan is attracting global investors and maximizing its mineral wealth. These advancements pave the way for smarter, more sustainable exploration, ensuring long-term prosperity for its mining sector.